Hi everyone, it's Kelly from Kelly's Bead Boutique. So I've been making and teaching how to make jewelry for a very long time. And one of the comments that I hear all the time is you make it look so easy. Well, there's a reason why I make it look easy, and it's because I've learned from some of the best teachers out there, and I've made lots of mistakes along the way, and I've practiced and I've practiced and I've practiced. And along the way, I've come up with some really great little tips and tricks to teach you how to make better jewelry. So if you want to learn what some of those are, come and join me. All right, so tip number one is going to be on your tools. You want to try and buy the best tools that you can afford, and whatever that is, you have to work within your budget. So I think I've explained on a previous video that I like to use German quality tools. I'm a bit of a tool snob, so I do like really good quality, but I too started out with the really cheap tools. And they work okay, but they don't have really nice honed edges and things like that. So it really does make a difference. The one thing you do not want to do is get all excited about making jewelry and go, oh gosh, I don't have any tools. Well, I'm just going to go down to my husband's toolbox and I'm going to grab his pliers. Because jewelry tools they're really nicely honed on the sides, and they don't have those little serrated edges inside. If you use those for your pliers, you're going to end up with nicks and mars all over your wire, and you're just going to make a mess. So you want to make sure that even if you can only buy a pair of pliers that are $6.99, that you go for jewelry tools versus just industrial tools. So that's my tip number one. Two is to hold your tools correctly. Now, I've taught hundreds of classes over the years, and one of the things that I see happening all the time is that women in general really like to hold their tools as if they were sipping on a cup of tea, in that they like to do this. Well, one, you've got this finger that's in the middle and it's not giving you any support. The baby finger's hanging out here doing some craziness, and you have literally no hold on your tool. Like, you've got no tension, no grip, no nothing. Like, that is going to give you hand fatigue. You're going to lose your grip on your wire or whatever you're working on. So make sure when you hold onto your tools that you've actually got it in your hand and you're ready to go by giving it, it's like really firmly in your hand. I have a larger hand, so I like to use these larger ergonomic tools. If you have a tiny hand, then get really tiny tools, but make sure that your tool fits comfortably in your hand, and make sure that you're covering the entire tool with your whole hand when you're working with it. No more sipping tea. Tip number 3 is on materials. So I do suggest trying to buy the best quality materials that you can afford. Now, everybody has a different budget. Some people don't have a budget. Some people just buy whatever they want. But I do recommend on a few things trying to buy the better quality items. And one of them is on your flexible beading wire. I only use Softflex. I really do think it is the best product. There's all kinds of really, really cheap items out there that you can buy. There's some from China that are just horrific. And then we have basically it's like the Cadillac, which is Softflex. I don't like to use any other product. I've tried them all, and most of them are horrible. What I do like about Softflex is that it's so super flexible. Like, you can see when I bend that it doesn't kink. One of the things you don't want to have happen in your beading wire is to end up with something that really kinks easily, because once it gets a kink in there, it will always show in your jewelry. This is their 49 strand. They also have a little lesser quality one that's a little bit cheaper. That one's not too bad, but I really do like this. So spend your money wisely on your materials. Shop the sales when you can so that you can save some money. If you go to my website, I have a 20% off discount for your very first order. You just have to sign up for my newsletter, and you're instantly given a little coupon code where you can save 20%. That's the kind of thing that you want to buy when you can get a coupon for it, because often these kind of products don't go on sale. So always try to spend your money wisely and get the best quality materials that you can. So my fourth tip is on some techniques. So actually, the reason that this video is happening is because my staff were talking the other day with my last video that came out this week, and I was talking about how to open up jump rings and that sort of thing. And they said, well, you should show how to not open a jump ring correctly. And I thought, oh, well, why would I do that? And then it got me to thinking about some of the things that, we can do to help make our jewelry designing a little bit easier. So I'm going to show some of the things like, how to open it up incorrectly. So I've never done this because I guess I learned how to do them correctly, but I have seen people try to open up a jump ring. I'll see if I can even do this. So instead of trying to open it up, like this is the correct way. You want to have one of your sets of pliers on one side of the cut, and then I like to use a bent chain nose on the other side, and I'll show you the difference in a minute. So the correct way is like this, and you're going to go opposite ways, so you're going this way. I don't even know if I can get my tools to work this way because they might slip out. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, but I have seen people in classes go like this and try to open it up like that. But you can see when you open that up how it takes it out of the round. And then when you try to put it back together again, it'll never go back in the round. So now we have kind of a bent, mangled sort of jump ring. So you want to make sure when you are opening and closing jump rings that you're always putting the cut up at the 12 o'clock position. You've got your chain nose plier coming in on the right side, and then you've got your bent chain nose coming in on the left side, and then open and close this way. Now I'm just going to grab another pair of pliers here. So a lot of people have asked me, well, why do I use this one? Well, when you do this, you can see I have to put my hand in this awkward position and try to kind of, maneuver it in, like I'm tucking it in there, and it's not very comfortable. By using this, instead of having to have it like this, it just tips it right out. So I absolutely love this. Now the other thing that you want to make sure is, so this is going to be my tip number 5, is you don't want to use the wrong tools. So I've seen some crazy videos, and I literally cringe, and I'm not saying that they're doing it wrong. I just don't understand this. So I actually saw a video the other day where the girl took her crimping pliers and she put that on one side. I don't know why. And then she took her round nose pliers and then did this kind of a thing. Oh, I guess it does work, but these have all kinds of grooves and things, and I just feel like it's going to get them kind of marred up. And the one thing you want to make sure when you're opening and closing jump rings, I'm just going to close this up and then see if I can show you. It probably won't show up on camera. Maybe I'll actually change colors and that might help a little bit. So I'm just going to close this one up with my proper tools. It's a little bit bigger, so it might show too. But one of the reasons you don't want to use a round nose plier versus a flat or a chain nose plier is that the round nose plier is round. And if I take this, and I'm going to do it like pretty hard so you can see it, but if I take this and get a good hold on there and then I open it and close it or whatever, you probably can't see it, I doubt it, but that has left marks right there, and that is because that's round. Where if I take my flat pliers and put them in here, it's not going to leave any marks. And again, because I'm using tools that don't have any of those little serrated edges in there, it's not going to leave any marks. So make sure that you're using the right tool for the task at hand. Tip number 6 is how to create a wire wrapped loop. Now, if you ask 5 different people how to make them, you're probably going to get 4 different ways to do it. But this is the way that I like to do it. And again, I'm not saying that this is the right way. It's just the way that I've learned to make a really nice wrapped loop. So the first thing that you want to do is, again, use good quality head pins and good quality wires. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm sort of creating like a little charm here of some sort. So the first thing I want to make sure that I do is I'm going to take the end of my pliers. Let me just move all this so you've just seen what I'm doing here. And I want to take it right towards the very end of the plier because I don't want to have this big long neck. The amount of wire that is in between those pliers is relative to how long your neck is going to be. So if I went up here, I would have this really long neck. Sometimes you may want that, but for the most part, you don't. So I'm going to go right here. Now, it is a little bit awkward because my camera is actually face down and I'm looking this way. So hopefully you'll be able to see. But the way that I always say to start it is to have your tool parallel to the table. So I'm going to now take my thumb, because my thumb is the strongest part on my hand, and I'm going to push away. And that's creating a nice 90-degree angle like that. Just a really sharp bend. And that little bend right there is what helps create that nice loop. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my round nose pliers. And this is where most people make an error, and they're holding their pliers in the wrong position. So the way that I do it is I want to start with my pliers so that it's parallel to my body. So I always tell people when you pick it up, you're going to grab it like this and you're going to turn it so that it's now parallel to your body. Then you're going to take the nose and you're going to put it in between the wire. So I want to place it wherever I want how big the loop is. So if I want a little teeny tiny loop, I'm going to go down here. And if I want a big loop, I'm going to go way up here. But I usually sort of hover somewhere around this area. I find that that's sort of a nice size loop. So I've got my wire sticking straight out to the back and I've got my tool parallel to my body. Now I'm going to take my finger and I'm from the behind here and I'm going to push it straight up and over. And then I'm going to use my thumb and I'm going to go straight down. And now I'm not going to take my tool out. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to this so I've got a little bit of stability. I'm going to open that tool up. So I'm just relaxing my hand so that I don't have that tight grip anymore. Now I'm going to rotate it so that it's now parallel to the table. So now you can see that I don't have it this way any longer. I've got it like this. So I didn't change the position of what I was working on. I simply changed the position of my tool by relaxing my hand and rotating. Now I want to take this tail and I'm going to pull it off to my left here and pull it straight to the back. And now you can see that that's created a loop. But that loop is kind of off to the left a little bit. So what I do is I just take my hand. Now here's a really exaggerated version of what I do. I'm taking it and I'm rotating like that. So what I'm doing is like this. You can see now how that just takes it and it puts it straight on top there. So that's how you start a wrapped loop. So my number 7 tip is how you actually create the rest of the wrap loop. So one of the things that you want to make sure is that you're holding this in the right direction. So I am right-handed, so I hold this in my left hand and I want to make sure that this is parallel to the table. And I'm going to take my entire tool now and go right across there. I don't want to just go like this, because if I take this and then grab my tool or my fingers and try to pull this around, it's going to buckle this nice wrapped loop that I've started here. So I want to make sure that I take my entire tool and go right across there, and I'm getting a really good hand grip on that. Now I want to take my bent chain nose pliers, and I'm always going to take the tip of the pliers to the tip of the wire. And I'm just going to, you can sort of see when I'm doing this is I'm sort of jockeying it into position. I'm sort of pulling up and down because it's that first little wrap around there that makes the nicest wrap loop. If you do a really loose kind of loop, it's going to end up looking loose and it's not going to look so nice. So I want to get that in there nice and tight. So now I'm going to wrap it around one more time. And you can see when I get around to this side, I let go of it. Otherwise, this wire is going to wrap right around my tool. Now I'm going to bring it around one more time and bring it to the back. This is what I consider the front. Now I'm going to come in, I'll just move my tools, and with the flush side of my cutters, I'm going to come straight in there and give it a little cut. And that is how you make a perfect wrap loop. Number 8 is how to finish off your wrapped loop. So one of the things that we have left over here is our little burr on the end. Now it's not really going to get in the way, but it could get kind of caught on your hair, or it could even get caught on some fabric because I can still feel it there. So the way that you want to make sure that you can tuck down these burrs nicely, and I was talking to my staff about it and they're like, well, that's the one thing I can't do. So can you please show how to do it properly? So the way that you need to have it is if you're right-handed, you want to make sure that you're holding on to the little loop here in your left hand. And the reason is you need the wire coming towards you to be able to do this. If I turned it around this way, there's no way that I'm going to be able to get that down because if I start pushing on it, it doesn't go the right way. So the way that I do it is I hold on to that little loop in my left hand, and then I can see that burr is just coming around the wire and it's poking out right there towards me. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to see that. I'll try to get it nice and close so you can see where that burr is. Now I'm just going to take the very, very tip of my pliers, and I am not pushing hard because if I push hard, I'm going to, wreck this whole beautiful thing that I've just created. So I want to just take the end of my pliers and I'm just gently pushing down on that. I'm not using a lot of pressure and I'm not trying to get it so that it's completely perfectly squashed down there. I just want to tip it back a little bit so that I can't feel it any longer and it's not poking out. So now you should be able to see that that burr is completely tucked in there. So tip number 9 is on how to crimp your soft flex or whatever kind of beading wire you're using properly. So one of the things you do not want to do is you don't want to take your crimps and put it through on your wire and then stick your other end in and then just come in with your pliers and squish it down. It may hold for a little bit, but if I pulled hard enough, I could probably get that out. It might take me a little bit, but this is going to eventually work its way out because all you've got is 2 round pieces of metal wire going into a metal loop. And I can see that I've already pulled it out of whack there. So you want to make sure that you are actually crimping properly. So let me just cut this off so that we've got the bad stuff out of the way here. A little bonus tip is to make sure that you're using the right kind of crimps. I don't like those round crimps. These are the 2x2 tubular crimps. They have a nice flat wall on them, and these are really good quality ones. I also sell some lesser quality ones in the store, and I have to admit, I don't like them at all, but people always want to buy them because of the price. These ones are the same, you get the same amount of crimps, but they're about double the price. But honestly, they are so worth it. And I'll make sure to link all the tools that I use and the soft flex and all my crimps and things like that. I'll make sure to link those in the description box below the video. But spend a little bit extra and get a really good crimp, and it makes all the difference. So to do your crimps properly, you want to make sure that you put your crimp on. Now let's pretend that we're making something. So I'll take that little thing that I just made there. So let's say I was going to be attaching this. I wouldn't be doing it like this, but I've just grabbed something that I had there. So when you put it through the tube, you want to make sure that it doesn't cross over, and it immediately wants to cross over like that. It's just the nature of the wire. So you always want to watch the direction that the wire is going. So what I like to do is reorient it and pull it back with my fingers. And now you can see that that's going in the right direction. So I want to tighten that up. But I don't want to have it, here's what not to do. One thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to pull your crimp all the way down to the bottom. So I'll just jam it in there because you can see how it's very rigid. So I want to make sure that when I am crimping that I'm going to leave a little bit of room so that I've got some flexibility there. You also have to think about whether or not you're going to have a crimp cover because crimp covers actually take up a fair amount of room. So where I would probably position this is I would position it about there if I was going to use a crimp cover because I would need that extra room. If I wasn't using a crimp cover, I would probably go about there. And you can see that still leaves me lots of flexibility. So now I'm going to come in with my crimpers. So you can see in the crimpers, we've got one that looks kind of like just a little oval, and then we've got one that kind of creates like a little taco inside here. So that's the first one that we're going to use. Now I haven't let go of this so that I know my wires are still going in the right direction. They haven't crossed over. So I want to come in with my little sort of taco area there. So it's on the most inside one, and I want to make sure everything's lined up. I have a good look at it. And this one's wanting to flip over a little bit, so I just make sure that it does what I want it to do. You're the boss, just make it do what you want to do. And take your time, and make sure that that crimp is fully covered over. And you can see I can move that crimp now. So I slide it right to where I want it. It's fully covered, I don't have any little bits hanging out, and I give it a really good crimp. So now you can see, if I flip this over, that each one of these wires is encased in that crimp. So now what you're going to do is you're going to turn it so that so I had it this way. So now I'm going to turn it so basically that the folded part is going to be to the back. And I'm going to take this top part and I'm going to come right on top of that. And I'm going to give it another good crimp. And now you can see that that is completely folded in there. And that's not going to go anywhere. And that is a really nice crimp. And the other thing that I like to do is I come in with my pliers and I give it just one more little squish. Not much, just a little bit to make sure that that is not going anywhere. And my last tip, my number 10 tip, is years ago I took a class in California from a renowned jewelry designer. And as I was making my piece, I was loading up all my beads, so I was doing this kind of a thing. So I was putting my beads on, I had already done my crimp, and I left a little tail like that. So I put my bead on and she could see me, and I was taking that little tail and I'm trying to stick it in there and I'm trying to jam it in there and get it all. And she comes in and she goes, Kelly, why are you doing that? And I said, doing what? And she said, well, why do you have that little tail there? And I said, well, you need that for extra support. And she said, extra support, how? Like, what does that actually do? Now, I had been taught by another teacher, and I was told that you needed to leave that tail, that you always wanted to take that little tail and you want to tuck it into your bead because it provides extra support. And she got me thinking a little bit about this. She said, okay, I want you to take this bead off and I want you to analyze it. And she said, how is that creating extra support? Because all you've got is this little piece that's flapping around out here. And when you put that bead on, you've now got another little end that's going to niggle out. And she said, it will eventually turn and it's going to start poking you in your neck or in your wrist. And she said, if you have crimped this properly, you can actually trim right at the crimp. And I panicked and I thought, there is no way that you can do that. But I had my jewelry in over 80 stores across Canada. I sold thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of jewelry over the years, and I never had a single return because I crimped properly. So what I was told to do at that class, thank you very much, Kate, was to go in there and cut it off really close. And so now all you've got is that little bit. So when you come in and you take your bead and you put it on there, it doesn't have that little end sticking out, and there is no way that that's going to come apart if you have crimped properly.
So there you go. There's my 10 tips to making better jewelry. I hope you found this video informational, and I hope that you enjoyed all the little techniques that I showed you. Try and implement some of them into your jewelry designing and see if it does help you along the way. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from everybody. Let me know, what was your favorite thing that you learned today that you'd never heard of before? And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please make sure that you do so. It really does help my channel out. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.